The faint hum of the refrigerator filled the pre-dawn silence of Nina Garcia's kitchen. It was 5:47 a.m., and the world outside their modest suburban home was still cloaked in the gray haze of early winter. Nina stood at the counter, cracking eggs into a sizzling pan, her hands moving with the mechanical precision of routine. The scent of butter and toast mingled with the chill seeping through the cracked window pane. She glanced at the clock. Darren would be down soon, expecting breakfast before his commute to his financial analyst job downtown. Their 6-year-old son Milo was still asleep upstairs, his soft snores a small comfort in the quiet. Nina's reflection stared back from the stainless steel kettle, tired brown eyes, dark hair pulled into a messy bun, a face that once lit up with dreams now etched with resignation. She was 32, but the weight of the last decade made her feel older. 10 years ago, she'd been a marketing major with a side hustle designing care packages for friends, boxes filled with thoughtful trinkets and handwritten notes. Darren had loved her spark then, calling her his firecracker. Now, he barely looked at her. "Morning," Darren's voice cut through her thoughts as he entered. His tie already knotted, phone in hand. He didn't look up from scrolling. "Eggs are almost ready," Nina said, forcing a smile. "Want coffee?" "Black. No sugar." His tone was clipped, like he was ordering at a drive-thru. He slid into a chair, eyes glued to his screen, thumb flicking through emails or, Nina suspected, something less innocent. She poured the coffee, the steam curling between them like a fragile barrier. "You sleep okay?" she tried, setting the mug down. "Fine." He didn't elaborate. His fingers tapped the table, impatient. "Milo up yet?" "Not yet. I'll wake him after you leave." Darren grunted, finally glancing at her. "You need to stop letting him sleep so late. He'll be late for school." Nina bit her lip. Milo's school didn't start for 2 hours. "I've got it handled," she said softly, turning back to the stove. The eggs hissed, mirroring the tension building in her chest. She wanted to ask about his day, about the promotion he'd been chasing, about anything to bridge the growing chasm between them. But his phone buzzed, and he smirked at the screen, a private, smug expression that made her stomach twist. "What's so funny?" she asked, keeping her tone light. "Nothing you'd get," he said, pocketing the phone. He stood, grabbing his coffee and a piece of toast. "I'm out. Meeting ran long yesterday, might again today." "Okay. Be safe," she said, but he was already halfway to the door. As it slammed shut, Nina stood frozen, spatula in hand. The eggs were overcooked now, edges curling brown. She scraped them into the trash, her throat tight. She wasn't just cooking for a husband who didn't care, she was living for one. Her dreams of starting a business, of being more than just a wife, felt like relics from another life. But today, that smirk on Darren's face lingered in her mind. Something was off. And for the first time in years, a flicker of defiance sparked in her chest. She didn't know what was coming, but she knew she couldn't keep ignoring the cold. The grocery store was a fluorescent maze of canned goods and chatter. Nina pushed the cart, Milo trailing behind, his sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. He was humming a tune from school, clutching a box of cereal he'd begged for. Nina's list was short: milk, bread, eggs, some fruit, but the budget was tight. Darren had been managing their finances since Milo was born, insisting it was easier if he controlled the accounts. She'd agreed, trusting him. Now, she wasn't so sure. At the checkout, the cashier, a kind-faced woman named Marla, smiled at Milo. "Got a sweet tooth, huh?" she teased, scanning the cereal. "He's earned it," Nina said, ruffling Milo's hair. She swiped her debit card, expecting the usual beep. Instead, the machine flashed red, declined. "Oh, weird," Nina said, laughing nervously. "Let me try again." She swiped slower. Declined. Her cheeks flushed as Marla's smile faltered. "Try this one," Nina said, pulling out their backup card. Declined. The line behind her grew restless. Milo tugged at her sleeve, sensing her unease. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Nothing, buddy," she whispered, digging through her purse. She found $12 in crumpled bills and change, enough to cover the essentials. "Just these, please," she told Marla, pushing the cereal aside. Marla nodded, her eyes soft with understanding. "Happens to the best of us," she said quietly, bagging the items. Outside, Nina buckled Milo into the car, her hands shaking. She dialed Darren, her heart pounding. Voicemail. She tried again. Nothing. "Hey, it's me," she said, voice steady despite the panic. "The cards aren't working. Call me back." At home, she sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, Milo coloring nearby. She logged into their joint account, or tried to. Access denied. She refreshed, retyped the password. Same result. Her pulse quickened as she checked the other accounts. All locked. Everything was in Darren's name, a detail she'd never questioned until now. Her phone buzzed, a text from Darren, at a meeting. Talk later. No explanation. No apology. She stared at the screen, the weight of her dependence crashing down. She wasn't just locked out of money, she was locked out of her life. "Mom, you okay?" Milo asked. Crayon paused mid-scribble. She forced a smile. "Just figuring something out, sweetie." But inside, anger simmered. Darren wasn't just careless, he was deliberate. She thought of the times he dismissed her ideas, her dreams, her worth. This wasn't a glitch. It was a cage. And she was done feeling trapped. The kitchen clock ticked past 8 p.m. when Darren's car pulled into the driveway. Nina had spent the day replaying the grocery store humiliation, her mind spiraling. She'd cooked dinner, spaghetti, Milo's favorite, but her appetite was gone. Milo was upstairs, tucked in, leaving the house eerily quiet as Darren walked in, loosening his tie. "Hey," he said, tossing his keys onto the counter. "Smells good." Nina didn't turn from the sink, scrubbing a pan with more force than necessary. "The cards didn't work today," she said, voice tight. "At the store. With Milo." He sighed, like she'd inconvenienced him. "Yeah, I meant to tell you. I froze the accounts." She spun around, sponge dripping. "You what?" "Relax," he said, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. "We're spending too much. I'm tightening things up." "Spending too much?" Her voice rose. "I bought groceries, Darren. Milk. Bread. For your son." He rolled his eyes. "Don't make this dramatic, Nina. You're always so emotional. I'm doing this for us. You need to learn to manage money better." Her jaw tightened. "Manage money? I don't even have access to it. You control everything." "Exactly," he said, stepping closer, his tone patronizing. "And you should be grateful. I'm protecting you from yourself. You're not exactly a financial genius." The word stung, but she held his gaze. "I've never overspent. You know that." He smirked, that same smug look from breakfast. "You don't get it, do you? This is temporary. A lesson. You'll thank me later." Nina's hands clenched. "A lesson?" "I was humiliated in front of Milo. I had to scrape change from my purse." "Then maybe you should have planned better," he snapped, turning to grab a beer from the fridge. "I'm not the bad guy here." She wanted to scream, to throw the pan at him, but she swallowed it down. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, quieter now, searching his face for the man she'd married. He shrugged, popping the cap off his bottle. "Didn't think it was a big deal. You're blowing this out of proportion." That night, Nina lay awake, his snores steady beside her. His words echoed, "You're not a financial genius." But she wasn't stupid. She'd balanced budgets in college, pitched business ideas to professors who'd called her promising. Darren's control wasn't about money, it was about keeping her small. As moonlight spilled through the curtains, a resolve hardened in her. She wasn't just angry. She was awake. And she was done being silenced. The next morning, Nina sat at her laptop, Milo at school, Darren already gone. The house felt too big, too quiet. She opened her email, scrolling aimlessly, when an old message caught her eye. Subject: Your care package idea. It was from Tanya Ruiz, a business coach she'd met at a networking event 3 years ago. Nina had pitched her idea for custom care boxes for new moms. Thoughtful, practical gifts to ease the postpartum haze. Tanya had loved it, offering to mentor her. But Darren had laughed it off. You're a mom, not a CEO. Nina had let it go. Now, she reread Tanya's words. Your passion is contagious. If you ever want to start again, I'll help. Her finger hovered over the reply button. What was she risking? Nothing. She had nothing left to lose. She typed, Hi Tanya, it's Nina Garcia. I'm ready to try again. Can we talk? She hit send before she could overthink it. Her phone pinged almost instantly, a reply. Nina. Thrilled to hear from you. Call tomorrow, 10 a.m. Nina's heart raced. She scheduled the call, then opened a notebook. Her old business plan spilled out. Mama Glow boxes, care for new moms, from one who's been there. She sketched ideas, organic teas, affirmation cards, cozy socks. Each word felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. That evening, Darren announced he was leaving for a 3-day work trip. Don't touch the accounts, he said, zipping his suitcase. I'll unfreeze them when I'm back. She nodded, keeping her face neutral. Safe trip. As his car pulled away, she felt a rush, not of fear, but of possibility. He thought she was helpless. He was wrong. The next morning, Nina was cleaning Milo's closet, sorting through clothes he'd outgrown. As she reached for a shoebox, her fingers brushed an envelope taped to the underside of a shelf. She peeled it off, heart pounding. Car emergency. $3,000 was scrawled in Darren's handwriting. She opened it. Crisp $100 bills stared back. Her first instinct was to call him, to demand why he'd hidden it. But then she stopped. This wasn't his money anymore. It was opportunity. She tucked the envelope into her purse and sat at her laptop, opening PayPal. With trembling fingers, she created a business account under her maiden name, Nina Morales. It felt like a rebellion. At 10 a.m., her phone rang. Tanya. Nina, you sound different, Tanya said, her voice warm but sharp. What's changed? Nina hesitated, then spilled it. The frozen accounts, Darren's control, her humiliation. I'm done being stuck, she said. I want Mama Glow to be real. Tanya didn't sugarcoat it. Good. But this won't be easy. You've got no capital, a kid, and a husband who's sabotaging you. You need to be bold. No one's coming to save you. Nina swallowed hard. I know. I'm ready. Start small, Tanya said. Use what you've got. Build one box. Post it online. See who bites. You've got the heart. Now show the hustle. After the call, Nina cried. Not from fear, but from fire. She took $300 from the envelope and drove to a craft store, Milo in tow. We're making something special, she told him, picking out supplies. Back home, she crafted her first Mama Glow box. Lavender tea, a handwritten card, a soft blanket. She snapped photos, her hands shaking with excitement. This was hers. And no one could take it away. The living room was a battlefield of tissue paper and ribbon curls, illuminated by the soft glow of a single lamp. Nina Garcia knelt on the hardwood floor, her hands trembling as she packed her first 5 Mama Glow boxes. Each contained lavender tea, a handwritten affirmation card, cozy socks, and a small candle, carefully chosen for new moms craving comfort. She'd spent $300 from the hidden envelope, every penny a gamble on herself. Milo, curled up on the couch with a coloring book, watched her with wide eyes. Mom, are those presents? He asked. Kind of, Nina said, smiling. They're for mommies who need a little love. Like you. His innocence pierced her. She ruffled his hair. Maybe. Her phone sat beside her, open to a freshly launched Instagram page at Mama Glow boxes. The profile photo was a candid shot of her first box, bathed in morning light. Her bio read, Care for new moms, from one who's been there. She'd spent the afternoon joining Facebook mom groups, her heart racing with every post. Just made my first Mama Glow box. DM to order, she'd written, attaching a photo. Now, she refreshed obsessively, waiting for a response. At 9:17 p.m., a notification pinged. A DM from @Jess New Mom. These are beautiful. Can I order one? Nina gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Milo, look, she whispered, showing him the message. He clapped, not fully understanding but caught in her joy. She typed back, absolutely. I'll ship tomorrow. Thank you. By midnight, another order came in. Then another. 3 orders in one night. She cried, quiet tears of triumph, as she packed each box with care. Darren was still on his work trip, oblivious to her rebellion. She imagined his face when he found out, his smug control unraveling. The next morning, she drove to the post office, 3 boxes stacked in her passenger seat. The clerk, a gruff man named Tony, raised an eyebrow. Starting a business, huh? Something like that, Nina said, her voice steadier than she felt. She paid for shipping with cash, her heart pounding. This was real. Back home, she posted again. First orders shipped. Who's next? Another order came within hours. Each sale was a brick in the foundation of her freedom. She wasn't just making boxes, she was rebuilding herself. Darren's suitcase thudded in the foyer as he returned from his trip. Nina stood at the stove, stirring a pot of chili, the kitchen warm with cumin and tomato. Milo was upstairs, lost in a book. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm. Nina had spent the day packing 2 more orders, her Instagram now at 87 followers. She'd blocked Darren from the account, a small act of defiance that felt monumental. Dinner smells good, Darren said, loosening his tie. He sat at the table, scrolling his phone, oblivious to the shift in her. Hope you've been thinking about budgeting while I was gone. Nina's grip tightened on the ladle. She'd rehearsed this moment all day. I have, she said, turning to face him. She slid a business card across the table. Mama Glow Boxes, Nina Garcia, founder. The card was simple, printed at a local shop with her last $20. He picked it up, squinting. What's this? His tone was amused, like she'd handed him a child's drawing. My business, she said, holding his gaze. I've made $380 this week. Darren laughed, a sharp, dismissive bark. Cute. Selling little gift baskets? That's not a business, Nina. It's a hobby. Her jaw clenched, but she kept her voice calm. It's real. I have customers. Orders. A plan. He leaned back, crossing his arms. With what money? You don't have access to anything. I found a way, she said, her eyes steady. I don't need your permission. His smile faded, a flicker of unease in his eyes. You're playing with fire, he said, voice low. You think you can just start something behind my back? I'm not behind your back, she shot back. I'm right in front of you. You just haven't been looking. He stood, towering over her. Don't get cocky. You're still my wife. This house, this life, it's because of me. Nina didn't flinch. Keep telling yourself that. She turned back to the stove, her heart pounding but her resolve ironclad. He stormed upstairs, muttering about her stupidity. Later, she caught him checking her phone while she washed dishes. He found nothing. She'd hidden her tracks. For the first time, she saw it, he was rattled. And she was just getting started. 3 weeks later, Nina's living room was a mini warehouse. Boxes lined the walls, filled with supplies she'd ordered in bulk with her earnings. Mama Glow boxes had hit 50 orders, each one a testament to her hustle. She worked late into the night, crafting boxes while Milo slept. Her Instagram following had ballooned to 1,200 after a parenting influencer, @MamaVibes, featured her box in a reel that got 10,000 views. This box saved my sanity, the influencer captioned, showing off Nina's handwritten card. Orders poured in, $2, 800 in revenue so far. Nina sat cross-legged on the floor, packing order number 51, when her phone rang. It was Rachel, her best friend since college, who'd been cheering her on via text. "Girl, you're blowing up," Rachel said, her voice bright. "I saw the reel. You're a rock star." "I'm terrified," Nina admitted, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Darren's starting to ask where I'm going during the day. I'm dodging him, but he's suspicious." "Screw him," Rachel said. "He doesn't get to control you anymore. You're building something real. What's next?" "I'm partnering with a boutique downtown," Nina said, her voice catching with excitement. "They'll carry 10 boxes to start. I'm reinvesting every dollar." "That's my girl," Rachel said. "But be careful. Darren's not gonna like this." "I know," Nina said, glancing at the clock. "He'd be home soon." She'd started working at Rachel's house to avoid his prying eyes, but the tension at home was palpable. He'd stopped asking about her day, but his silence felt like a coiled snake. That afternoon, she met with the boutique owner, a warm woman named Lila. "These boxes are magic," Lila said, holding one up. "Moms will eat them up. Let's start with 10, see how they sell." Nina nodded, her chest tight with pride. She drove home, singing along to the radio, a rare moment of joy. But as she pulled into the driveway, she saw Darren's car. He was home early. Her stomach dropped, but she straightened her shoulders. She wasn't hiding anymore. Nina woke to the faint hum of a new device in the living room. She padded downstairs, coffee mug in hand, and froze. A small security camera blinked red from the bookshelf, its lens aimed at the couch where she'd been packing boxes. Darren had installed it overnight. No warning, no discussion. Her skin prickled. This wasn't about safety, it was about control. She played it cool, waving at the camera with a forced smile. "Morning, big brother," she muttered, pouring her coffee. She wouldn't let him see her sweat. Instead, she texted Rachel, "Can I use your basement to work? Darren's watching." Rachel replied instantly, "Get over here. He's a creep." That evening, Nina packed her supplies into a duffel bag and drove to Rachel's, Milo in tow. Rachel's basement was a cozy chaos of toys and laundry, but it felt like a sanctuary. Nina set up her workstation, taping boxes while Rachel poured wine. "He's losing it," Rachel said, handing her a glass. "You're outshining him, and he can't stand it." "He thinks I'm still the old Nina," she said, folding tissue paper. "The one who'd just take it." "Not anymore," Rachel said, raising her glass. "To the new Nina." Nina clinked her glass, a spark in her eyes. "To Mama Glow." Later, Nina checked her email and found a message from Tanya, her business coach. "Check out this grant for women of color starting businesses. $15,000. You're perfect for it." Nina's heart raced. She spent the night drafting an application, pouring her story into it, not the abuse, but the dream. Mama Glow is about giving new moms strength, because I know what it's like to need it. She hit submit, her hands shaking. It was a long shot, but hope felt like fuel. Nina was folding laundry when her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She answered, expecting a spam call. "Nina Garcia?" A woman's voice asked, professional but warm. "This is Maria from the Women's Startup Fund. You've been selected for our $15,000 grant." Nina dropped a sock, her breath catching. "Are you serious?" Maria laughed. "Very. Your application stood out. Mama Glow's mission is powerful, and your story, it's inspiring." Nina sank onto the couch, tears streaming. "Thank you," she whispered. "This changes everything." After the call, she screamed, startling Milo, who ran downstairs. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," she said, scooping him up. "Mommy's business just got a big win." She called Rachel, who hooped so loudly Nina had to pull the phone away. 15 grand? Nina, you're unstoppable. What's the plan? A website, Nina said, pacing. A real logo. Maybe a co-working space. I'm done hiding in basements. Do it, Rachel said. And don't tell Darren. Let him find out when you're too big to ignore. That night, Nina opened a business account in her name, depositing the grant check. She hired a graphic designer she'd found on Instagram, a young woman named Aisha who loved her vision. "Let's make Mama Glow bold," Aisha said over a Zoom call, her screen filled with vibrant mock-ups. "Think pinks, golds, colors that scream strength." "I love it," Nina said, her voice thick with emotion. "This is me. This is what I've always wanted." At home, Darren was quieter than usual, his eyes darting to her as she cooked. "You seem busy," he said, fishing. "Just keeping the house running," she lied, stirring a pot. The camera blinked in the corner, but she didn't care. She was building something he couldn't touch. And soon, he'd see just how far she'd go. The community center buzzed with chatter, the air thick with coffee and anticipation. Nina Garcia stood backstage, clutching a crumpled note card with her speech, starting from silence. Her navy dress hugged her frame, a thrift store find she'd paired with bold gold earrings, her first purchase with Mama Glow profits. The room was packed with women, mostly moms and entrepreneurs, their faces a mix of curiosity and camaraderie. Nina's Instagram had hit 5,000 followers, her orders now at 78, and this local women's event was her first public speaking gig. Her stomach churned, but her resolve was steel. The MC, a vibrant woman named Carla, took the mic. "Next, we have Nina Garcia, founder of Mama Glow Boxes, sharing her journey of resilience." Applause rippled as Nina stepped into the spotlight, her heart pounding. She scanned the crowd, spotting Rachel in the front row, giving her a thumbs up. "Hi, everyone," Nina began, her voice shaky but clear. "3 months ago, I was a stay-at-home mom who felt invisible. I'd lost my dreams to a life I didn't choose. But I chose to start again." She didn't mention Darren or the frozen accounts. Her story wasn't about him. It was about her. Mama Glow is for every woman who's been told she's not enough. It's for the silence we break when we build something new. The room erupted in applause. A woman in the back shouted, "Preach!" Nina smiled, her nerves melting. After, she mingled, handing out business cards. A young mom, tears in her eyes, grabbed her hand. "Your speech, it's my life," she said. "My husband controls everything. How did you do it?" Nina squeezed her hand. "One step at a time. Start small, but start." The woman nodded, slipping Nina's card into her purse. That night, a local vlogger posted Nina's speech online. By morning, it had 20,000 views. Her inbox flooded with messages, orders, thank yous, and an email from a women-led podcast, Sisters Rising. "We'd love to have you share your story," it read. Nina sat at her kitchen table, stunned, as Milo ate cereal nearby. "Mom, are you famous?" he asked, milk dripping from his chin. She laughed. "Not quite, buddy." But she felt it, a shift. Her voice was no longer just hers. It was a beacon. The living room was dim, the security camera's red light blinking like an accusation. Nina sat on the couch, scrolling through comments on her viral speech, when Darren stormed in, his face a mask of fury. He'd seen the YouTube clip. Someone at his office had sent it, captioned, "This woman's killing it." His tie was askew, his voice low and sharp. "You made me look like a fool," he said, looming over her. Nina set her phone down, meeting his gaze. "I didn't mention you once. If you feel exposed, that's on you." He scoffed, pacing. "Don't play innocent. You're out there whining about your life, making people think I'm some monster." "I told my story," she said, standing. "About starting over. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should ask why." He stepped closer, his voice a hiss. "You're my wife. You don't get to do this without my say. Shut it down, Nina. Now." She laughed, a sharp, defiant sound that startled them both. "Shut it down? I'm just getting started. Mama Glow is mine. You don't get a vote." His eyes narrowed. You think you're some big shot now? You're nothing without me. This house, Milo's school, your life, it's all because of me. Nina's hand shook, but her voice was steady. You froze our accounts to control me. You hid money, lied, made me beg for groceries. I built this from nothing. You don't own me anymore. He froze, his jaw tight. For a moment, she thought he'd yell, but he turned and grabbed his keys. You'll regret this, he muttered, slamming the door. Nina sank onto the couch, her heart racing. She wasn't scared, she was alive. She texted Rachel, just faced him down. I'm done hiding. Rachel replied, hell yes. You're a queen. Nina woke to a notification from her bank app. Account balance, $0. Her heart sank. She logged in, hands trembling, and saw the joint savings account. $12,000, painstakingly saved for Milo's future, emptied. A transfer to an unknown account, initiated at 2:03 a.m. Darren's doing. She checked the other accounts, all drained or locked. He'd escalated, a final blow to keep her down. She called Rachel, her voice breaking. He took everything. The savings, all of it. That bastard, Rachel said. You need a lawyer. Now. I can't afford one, Nina said, pacing. But I'm not letting him win. You've got Mama Glow, Rachel said. And us. Come to my place. We'll figure this out. Nina packed a bag for her and Milo, her mind racing. She drove to a women's advocacy center she'd found online, her hands gripping the wheel. Inside, a caseworker named Elena listened as Nina poured out her story. Darren's control, the frozen accounts, the hidden cash, the drained savings. Elena's eyes were kind but fierce. This is financial abuse, she said. We can help you file for separation and protect your assets. Assets? Nina said, almost laughing. I have a business that's barely 3 months old. And it's yours, Elena said. That's power. Let's use it. That afternoon, Nina filed for separation, her signature bold on the paperwork. She served Darren that night at home, Milo already asleep at Rachel's. He opened the envelope, his face paling. You're serious? He asked, his voice almost small. Dead serious, she said. I'm done. He tried to argue, but she walked out, her steps light. Online, her followers rallied, sending messages of support. One mom sent $50 via PayPal. You've got this. Nina cried, not from defeat, but from the strength she hadn't known she had. Nina's phone buzzed as she unpacked in her new rental apartment, a cozy one-bedroom she'd secured with Mama Glow earnings and a small loan from Rachel. Milo was coloring on the floor, humming happily. The email was from Wellnest, a wellness company. We're interested in licensing Mama Glow boxes for our corporate wellness program. Can we discuss a partnership? The proposed deal, $100,000 for an initial run of 1,000 boxes. Nina's jaw dropped. She reread the email, her pulse racing. She called Tanya, her business coach. This is huge, Tanya said, her voice crackling with excitement. But there's a catch. Wellnest is a subsidiary of Darren's firm. You okay with that? Nina laughed, a mix of disbelief and irony. Let's do it. He doesn't get to scare me off. They met at a sleek downtown office, Nina in a blazer she'd borrowed from Rachel, her confidence masking her nerves. The Wellness team, led by a sharp executive named Priya, greeted her warmly. Your boxes are perfect for our employee wellness initiative, Priya said. New moms on our staff need this kind of care. I'm honored, Nina said, sliding a sample box across the table. Mama Glow is about empowerment. I want every mom to feel seen. Priya nodded, impressed. We'll start with 1,000 boxes, with an option for more. Deal. Deal, Nina said, shaking her hand. As she left, she glanced at the company logo on the wall and saw the fine print, a division of Apex Financial. Darren's firm. Her stomach twisted, but she smiled. This wasn't just a deal. It was poetic justice. Nina adjusted her laptop camera, smoothing her hair. The Zoom call with Wellnest's executives was in 5 minutes. She'd spent the morning rehearsing her pitch, her notes scrawled with bullet points about Mama Glow's impact. Milo was at school, the apartment quiet except for the hum of her nerves. She wore a crisp white blouse, her gold earrings catching the light. This was her moment. The screen lit up, and faces appeared. Priya, 2 other execs, and, her breath caught, Darren, his expression a mix of shock and fury. He hadn't known she'd be here. Nina smiled, her voice steady. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Nina Garcia, founder of Mama Glow Boxes. Thank you for this opportunity." Priya beamed. "Nina, we're thrilled. Tell us how Mama Glow fits our wellness goals." Nina launched into her pitch, her words flowing with passion. Mama Glow is about more than products. It's about giving new moms strength in their hardest moments. Our boxes include practical care, teas, self-care items, affirmations, because I know what it's like to feel invisible. Your employees deserve that support. The execs nodded, scribbling notes. Darren sat silent, his jaw tight. Priya leaned forward. "This is exactly what we need. How quickly can you scale to 1,000 boxes?" "I'm ready," Nina said. "I've secured a co-working space and can deliver in 6 weeks." "Impressive," said an exec named Mark. "You've built this fast. What's your story?" Nina hesitated, then smiled. "I started from scratch, as a mom who needed to find her own strength. Mama Glow is my answer to that." She felt Darren's eyes on her, but she didn't look at him. This wasn't his stage. Priya clapped. "We're in. Let's draft the contract." As the call ended, Darren's face lingered on the screen, his silence louder than any words. Nina closed her laptop, her heart soaring. She wasn't just winning, she was rewriting the rules. Nina Garcia sat at her new desk in a co-working space, the hum of keyboards and coffee machines a stark contrast to the oppressive silence of her old kitchen. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating her laptop screen, where an email from Apex Financial's HR department glowed. "As a valued partner, we'd like your input on our employee well-being program. Can we schedule a consultation?" The irony hit her like a wave. Darren's firm, where he worked as a financial analyst, now sought her expertise. Mama Glow Boxes, born from her defiance, had landed her a seat at their table. She leaned back, sipping her coffee, a smile tugging at her lips. 3 months ago, Darren had frozen their accounts to keep her small. Now, she was shaping his workplace. She replied to the email, suggesting a meeting and a bold idea. Financial literacy workshops for employee spouses, focusing on independence. Let's see how he likes that, she thought. Later, she met Rachel for lunch at a bustling cafe. Rachel slid into the booth, grinning. "You're telling me Darren's gotta sit through your workshop ideas? That's next-level karma." Nina laughed, stirring her iced tea. "It's not about him. It's about women like me, trapped by someone else's control. If I can help one person, it's worth it." Rachel leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "You're not just helping one person, Nina. You're changing the game. How's it feel to be the boss?" "Terrifying," Nina admitted, her voice softening. "But I'm done being scared. I'm building something bigger than me." That evening, Nina drafted the workshop outline at her apartment, Milo asleep on the couch. The curriculum included budgeting basics, opening personal accounts, and recognizing financial abuse, lessons she'd learned the hard way. As she typed, her phone buzzed with a text from Tanya, her business coach. "Heard about the Apex deal. You're flipping the script. Proud of you." Nina smiled, her chest warm. She wasn't just surviving, she was rewriting power dynamics, one bold move at a time. The recording studio was a cozy nook, walls lined with soundproof foam and fairy lights. Nina adjusted her headset, her heart pounding as she faced the host of Sisters Rising, a podcast with 1 million subscribers. The host, Amara, a woman with a warm smile and piercing questions, leaned into her mic. "Nina Garcia, founder of Mama Glow Boxes, welcome. Your speech went viral. 2 million views now. Tell us, What's the real story behind your rise? Nina took a deep breath, her hands steady despite the nerves. It started with silence, she said, her voice clear. I was a mom, a wife, living a life I didn't recognize. My husband controlled our finances, froze our accounts to teach me a lesson. I was humiliated, broke, and scared. But I found a hidden envelope of cash and used it to start Mama Glow. Every box I made was a step toward freedom. Amara's eyes widened. That's raw. You're talking about financial abuse, something so many women face but don't name. How did you keep going? Anger, Nina said, half laughing. And love. For my son, Milo. For the woman I used to be. I wanted to prove I wasn't invisible. The episode, titled The Price of Silence, dropped at midnight. By morning, it had 300,000 downloads. Nina's phone buzzed non-stop. Messages from women sharing their stories, calling her a lifeline. One wrote, I left my controlling husband because of you. By evening, it hit 1 million views. Social media exploded, with hashtag #MamaGlow trending. But the fallout wasn't just online. Darren called her, his voice tight. You told the world I'm a monster. You happy now? Nina stood in her kitchen, unflinching. I told my truth. If you see yourself in it, that's not my fault. You're ruining me, he snapped. My boss saw it. Everyone's talking. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you drained our savings, she said, her voice ice. This isn't revenge, Darren. It's reality. She hung up, her hands shaking but her heart steady. The world was listening, and she wasn't whispering anymore. Nina sat in the Women's Advocacy Center, a stack of legal documents spread before her. Elena, her caseworker, reviewed the separation filing, her pen tapping rhythmically. You've got a strong case, Elena said. The account freeze, the drained savings, the hidden cash. You documented everything. He can't spin this. Nina nodded, her jaw tight. He's fighting it. Says I'm exaggerating, that I'm unstable. Elena smirked. Let him try. The judge will see through it. You've got receipts, bank statements, texts, even that camera he installed. Plus, Mama Glow's success shows you're anything but unstable. Nina exhaled, her shoulders easing. I just want Milo safe. And my business protected. You'll get both, Elena said. We're requesting primary custody and full control of your assets. He can't touch Mama Glow, it's in your name. That afternoon, Nina met Rachel at a park, Milo playing on the swings nearby. Rachel hugged her tight. You're a warrior, she said. How's it feel to fight back? Like I'm finally breathing, Nina said, watching Milo laugh. But I'm scared. What if he twists this in court? Rachel grabbed her hand. He's got nothing. You've got proof, a business, and a whole community behind you. Look at your Instagram. 10,000 followers. Nina. Women are sending you donations. You're not alone. Nina's eyes welled. I never thought I'd get here. I was so afraid to speak. And now you're shouting, Rachel said, grinning. He's the one who should be scared. The court date came fast. Darren sat across the room, his lawyer whispering furiously. He tried to paint Nina as erratic, but her documentation was ironclad, screenshots of locked accounts, his texts dismissing her. The judge, a stern woman with kind eyes, ruled in Nina's favor, primary custody of Milo and full financial control. Darren's face crumpled as the gavel fell. Nina walked out, her steps light, the weight of his control finally gone. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, the air alive with applause. Nina stood on stage at the National Women in Business Awards, her black gown shimmering, her heart pounding. She'd been named Innovator of the Year for Mama Glow's rapid growth and social impact. The crowd, 500 entrepreneurs, investors, and activists, watched as she gripped the Crystal Award, Milo beaming from the front row beside Rachel. Thank you, Nina began, her voice steady despite the spotlight. This isn't just about me. It's about every woman told she's too small, too quiet, too weak. I was silenced once, by someone who thought they could control me. But I learned something. Never underestimate the woman you tried to break. She'll build something you can't touch. The room erupted, a standing ovation that shook the floor. Nina's eyes found Milo, clapping with pride, and she smiled through tears. Backstage, a reporter from Forbes pulled her aside. "Your speech is trending," she said. #never underestimate is everywhere. What's next for Mama Glow? Nina laughed, still clutching the award. Bigger boxes, bigger impact. I want to reach every mom who feels alone. At the after-party, Rachel handed her a glass of champagne. "You're a freaking legend," she said. "Did you see Milo's face? He's so proud." Nina sipped, her eyes soft. "He's why I kept going. I wanted him to see his mom fight. And win," Rachel added, clinking her glass. "Darren's probably watching this on Twitter, losing his mind." "Let him," Nina said, her voice fierce. "This is my story now." She glanced at her phone, messages from women worldwide, calling her an inspiration. Her journey wasn't just personal anymore. It was a movement, and she was ready to lead it. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the park, where Nina Garcia stood near a wooden bench, her breath visible in the crisp air. Milo, bundled in a red jacket, played on a nearby slide, his laughter a bright note in the quiet. Nina's hands were steady, clutching a folder with custody exchange paperwork, but her heart raced. This was her first meeting with Darren since the court ruling granting her primary custody and financial control. She'd moved into a cozy rental apartment with Milo, paid for with Mama Glow's growing profits. Today was about closure, not confrontation. Darren's car pulled up, and he stepped out, his suit rumpled, his face drawn. Gone was the smug confidence that once defined him. He approached, hands in his pockets, eyes avoiding hers. "Hey," he said, his voice flat. "Milo ready for the weekend?" Nina nodded, gesturing toward the playground. "He's excited. Packed his favorite dinosaur pajamas." She kept her tone neutral, professional. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about Milo. Darren glanced at their son, then back at her. His jaw tightened, as if wrestling with something. "Nina," he started, his voice low, I'm sorry. For the accounts. The control. I was just trying to teach you responsibility." Nina's eyes narrowed, but she didn't flinch. She'd expected this, an apology laced with excuses. "Responsibility," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "You humiliated me, Darren. You made me beg for groceries while you hid money. That wasn't teaching. That was power." He shifted, uncomfortable. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I thought—" "You thought you could keep me small," she cut in, stepping closer. "But I learned responsibility anyway. I built a business. I protected our son. I don't need your lessons, or your apologies." Darren's face reddened, but he didn't argue. He looked at Milo, now chasing a leaf across the grass, and his shoulders sagged. "I just want to be a good dad," he muttered. "Then be one," Nina said, handing him the folder. "Show up for him, not for your ego. This isn't about us anymore." He took the folder, his fingers brushing hers, and for a moment she saw the man she'd married, a flicker of the charm that once drew her in. But it was gone as quickly as it came. She stepped back, her gold earrings glinting in the sunlight. "I'll pick him up Sunday," she said, turning away. As she walked toward Milo, her steps felt lighter than ever. She knelt, tying his shoelace, and he grinned. "Mom, you look happy." "I am, buddy," she said, kissing his forehead. She glanced back at Darren, already heading to his car, and felt nothing but relief. This chapter was closed. She was free. That evening, at her apartment, Nina sipped tea, her laptop open to Mama Glow's website. Orders had hit 200, and her Instagram was at 15,000 followers. Rachel texted, "How'd it go with the ex?" Nina replied, "Said goodbye. For good. Rachel sent a string of fire emojis. You're a queen. Keep shining. Nina smiled, her heart full. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. And Darren's shadow was finally gone. Nina's co-working space was a hive of activity, with freelancers typing and phones buzzing. She sat at her desk, surrounded by Mama Glow boxes ready for shipping, her laptop open to a contract from Wellnest, the wellness subsidiary of Darren's firm, Apex Financial. The $100,000 deal to supply 1,000 boxes was finalized, but today's email brought a twist she hadn't expected. Attached was a new compensation form for Apex employees, part of their updated wellness program. At the bottom, in bold, approved by Nina Garcia, Mama Glow boxes. She stared at the screen, a laugh bubbling up. Every paycheck Darren received would now bear her signature, a tangible reminder of her rise. It wasn't revenge, it was justice, poetic and precise. She leaned back, savoring the moment, then called Tanya, her business coach. Nina, you see this? Tanya's voice crackled with glee. You're signing his checks. How's that feel? Like I'm dreaming, Nina said, spinning her chair. 3 months ago, I was scraping change for groceries. Now, I'm in his workplace, changing how it runs. That's power, Tanya said. But don't get cocky. Use this. Keep growing. What's next? A bigger production space, Nina said. Maybe a second line of boxes, for working moms. I'm sketching ideas tonight. That's my girl, Tanya said. You're not just winning, you're building a legacy. Nina hung up, her mind racing. She opened Instagram, where a new reel showed her packing a box, her voiceover saying, "Every Mama Glow box is a reminder, you're stronger than you know." The post had 50,000 views, with comments like, "You're my hero," and "Ordered mine." Her phone pinged with an order confirmation, number 201. She grinned, taping another box shut. That evening, she took Milo to their favorite diner, a treat after a long week. He dipped fries in ketchup, his eyes bright. "Mom, are you famous yet?" he teased, echoing his earlier question. She laughed, stealing a fry. "Not famous. Just me. Doing what I love." "But everyone loves your boxes," he said, proud. "Even Dad's work?" Her smile widened. "Yeah, even Dad's work." She didn't tell him about the paychecks. Some victories were hers alone. As they ate, her phone buzzed with a text from Priya at Wellnest. "Employees love the boxes. Can we discuss a second order?" Nina's heart soared. This was only the beginning. Back home, she tucked Milo in, his dinosaur pajamas wrinkled from play. She sat at her kitchen table, sketching new box designs under the glow of a lamp. The paycheck twist wasn't just a win, it was a sign. She was no longer the woman Darren tried to control. She was the one setting the terms. Nina's apartment was a warm cocoon, filled with the scent of chamomile tea and the soft hum of a humidifier. Milo sprawled on the living room rug, surrounded by crayons and a half-finished drawing of a dragon. Nina sat nearby, her laptop open to a document titled Reclaimed, From Silence to CEO. She'd started outlining her book, a memoir of her journey from financial abuse to empowerment, sparked by the flood of messages from women inspired by her podcast. Each chapter was a piece of her heart, and tonight, she was writing about courage. Milo looked up, his brown eyes serious. "Mom, were you ever scared?" he asked, crayon paused mid-stroke. Nina froze, the question cutting through her focus. She set her laptop aside and knelt beside him, her sweatshirt sleeves rolled up. "Yeah, buddy," she said softly. "I was scared a lot. When I started Mama Glow, when I left Dad, when I didn't know how we'd make it. But I did it anyway." Milo tilted his head. "Why?" She took a deep breath, searching for words he'd understand. "Because sometimes you have to do things scared. That's how you win. You don't wait to feel brave, you just move." He nodded, processing. "Like when I was scared to jump off the diving board but did it?" "Exactly," she said, smiling. "You were scared, but you flew. That's what I'm doing now. Milo grinned, returning to his drawing. "You're like a superhero, Mom." Her throat tightened. "You're my superhero, kiddo." She kissed his forehead, then sat back, her mind spinning. His question became a new chapter title, "Doing It Scared." She typed furiously, pouring her story into the page. How fear had nearly stopped her, but love for Milo and herself had pushed her forward. The next morning, she met Rachel at a coffee shop, the air thick with espresso and chatter. Rachel slid a latte across the table. "Milo's question got you writing a bestseller, huh?" she teased, eyeing Nina's notebook. "It's more than that," Nina said, sipping her drink. "He reminded me why I'm doing this. I want him to grow up knowing fear doesn't win." Rachel leaned forward, her voice low. "You're not just teaching him. Your story's hitting thousands. I saw your latest post. 20,000 likes. Women are calling you their lifeline." Nina's eyes widened. "It's surreal. I got an email from a publisher yesterday. They want a proposal." Rachel hooped, drawing stares. "A book deal? Nina, you're unstoppable. What's it gonna be about?" "Everything," Nina said, her voice fierce. "The abuse, the hustle, the comeback. I want women to know they can rebuild, no matter how broken they feel." "That's gonna change lives," Rachel said, her eyes soft. "You already are." Nina glanced at her phone. Another order. Number 215. She'd also started mentoring through a local women's group, guiding 3 women escaping controlling relationships. One, a single mom named Lila, had texted her that morning, "Thank you for showing me I can start over." Nina's heart swelled. This was her purpose. That night, she tucked Milo in, his dragon drawing taped to the wall. She returned to her laptop, the book outline growing. Reclaimed wasn't just her story, it was a blueprint for others. As she typed, her phone buzzed with a notification. A new follower, a women's empowerment organization. Nina smiled. She wasn't just building a business. She was building a movement, one scared step at a time. The auditorium at Nina Garcia's alma mater buzzed with restless energy, the seats filled with students, faculty, and alumni. The stage was stark, a single podium under a spotlight, but Nina felt electric in her tailored blazer and gold earrings, her hair swept into a sleek bun. At 32, she stood before a crowd of 300, many of them young women who reminded her of her college self. Bright, uncertain, teetering on the edge of dreams. Her speech, from rock bottom to reclaimed, was a last-minute addition to the university's Women's Leadership Week, sparked by her viral podcast and award win. Mama Glow boxes had hit 300 orders, and her Instagram was at 25,000 followers. She was no longer invisible. She gripped the podium, her voice steady. 10 years ago, I sat where you are, dreaming of a life I thought I'd lost. I was a marketing major with big plans, but life, marriage, motherhood, control, silenced me. 3 months ago, I was locked out of my own bank accounts, humiliated and scared. But rock bottom isn't the end. It's where you build the strongest foundation. The room was silent, every eye on her. I started Mama Glow boxes with $300 and a dream. Now it's in corporate wellness programs, and I'm here to tell you, you can restart, no matter how far you've fallen. Your voice, your strength, it's still there. Find it. A student in the front row, her notebook open, raised her hand. "How do you find courage when you're afraid?" she asked, her voice trembling. Nina smiled, remembering Milo's similar question. "You don't wait for courage," she said. "You move through the fear. Start small, a notebook, a plan, one step. The bravery comes after." The applause was deafening, a wave that shook her core. Afterward, students crowded her, asking for selfies and advice. A young woman, Maya, lingered, her eyes red. "My boyfriend says my business idea is stupid," she whispered. "I'm scared to try." Nina took her hand. "I was you. Someone told me I was nothing, too. But you're not his opinion. Start anyway. If you need help, DM me." Maya nodded, clutching Nina's business card like a lifeline. That night, The speech trended on TikTok, clips shared with hashtag reclaimed and hashtag never silenced. Nina's phone buzzed with notifications, including a LinkedIn post from Darren's HR manager. Inspiring words from Nina Garcia. She laughed, imagining Darren's face seeing it. He'd been demoted last week, his control slipping as her star rose. At her apartment, she called Rachel, sprawled on her couch with a glass of wine. "Girl, you're viral again," Rachel said, her voice crackling with pride. "The whole campus is buzzing. You're changing lives." "It's surreal," Nina said, swirling her wine. "I saw myself in those girls. I want them to know they don't have to shrink." "You're not just telling them," Rachel said. "You're showing them. And Darren? He's gotta be sweating." "Let him," Nina said, her voice fierce. "This is my time." She hung up, her heart full, and opened her laptop to draft her book proposal. The world was watching, and she was ready to speak louder. Nina's co-working space was a flurry of activity, her desk piled with Mama Glow boxes ready for a new well-nest order. Her phone buzzed with an email from a foundation offering to fund her latest idea. The Reclaim Fund, a micro-grant program for women escaping financially abusive relationships. She'd launched it a month ago with $10,000 of her own profits, and already 117 women had received grants to start their exit plans: rent, legal fees, or small business supplies. Nina's story had become a blueprint, and the world was taking notice. She sat with Lila, one of her ments, at a nearby cafe, papers spread between them. Lila, a single mom with a toddler, had used her $500 grant to open a baking business. "I'm selling cupcakes at the farmer's market," Lila said, her eyes bright. "Because of you, I'm not trapped anymore." Nina squeezed her hand. "You did the work. I just gave you a start. How's it going?" 10 orders last week," Lila said, beaming. "My ex tried to guilt me, but I'm done listening. Your story, it's like you gave me permission to fight." "That's the point," Nina said, her voice warm. "We're not just surviving. We're building." Back at her desk, Nina checked her email and found a surprise. A thank-you letter from Sarah, a woman Darren had once passed over for a promotion at Apex Financial. "I saw your speech," Sarah wrote. "You inspired me to apply for a senior role. I got it. Thank you for showing me I'm enough." Nina's eyes welled. This was full circle, her impact rippling into Darren's world. She called Tanya, her business coach, to share the news. "The Reclaim Fund's at 117 women," Nina said, pacing. "And Sarah's letter, it's like I'm rewriting his mistakes." Tanya laughed. "You're not just rewriting. You're creating. This fund. It's your legacy, Nina. What's next?" "Scaling it," Nina said. "I want to reach 1,000 women by next year. And the book, it's almost ready for the publisher." "You're a force," Tanya said. "Darren thought he could break you. Now you're breaking cycles." That evening, Nina took Milo to a park, watching him climb a jungle gym. Her phone buzzed with a donation to the fund, $200 from an anonymous supporter, with a note, "Keep shining." She smiled, tucking her phone away. Her legacy wasn't just Mama Glow or the book, it was every woman she helped reclaim her power. As Milo waved from the slide, she waved back, her heart soaring. This was her purpose, and it was only growing. Nina stood on the small balcony of her new townhouse, a mug of chamomile tea warming her hands. The evening was crisp, the sky a deep indigo streaked with stars. Below, Milo kicked a soccer ball across the lawn, his laughter echoing in the quiet. The townhouse was a step up from their rental, bought with Mama Glow's profits and a loan she'd secured on her own. Her phone sat on the railing, buzzing with a final confirmation. Her book deal for Reclaimed, From Silence to CEO, was signed, with a release date next year. She was no longer the woman Darren had tried to cage. She was a builder, a beacon, a force. Inside, her living room was a cozy mix of Milo's toys and Mama Glow supplies, boxes stacked neatly for tomorrow's shipments. Order number 350 had shipped that morning, and her Instagram was at 30,000 followers, with messages pouring in daily. "You gave me hope. I'm leaving because of you." She sipped consonants, her heart full. This was peace, not the absence of struggle, but the presence of power. Her phone rang, and Rachel's face lit up the screen. "A book deal." Rachel squealed. "Nina, you're a legend. Tell me everything." Nina laughed, stepping inside to sit on the couch. "They want it out by spring. It's everything. Darren, the accounts, Mama Glow, the fund. I want women to know they can rebuild." "You're not just telling them," Rachel said. "You're living it. Milo's gonna grow up with the coolest mom ever." Nina glanced at Milo through the window, now chasing fireflies. "I hope so. I want him to see what's possible." "He already does," Rachel said. "And Darren? He's probably scrolling your posts, regretting everything." "Let him," Nina said, her voice steady. "He doesn't get to define me anymore." She hung up, her smile soft but fierce. She opened her laptop, where a draft of Reclaimed waited. The final chapter, Peace in Her Hands, was half-written, a reflection on finding strength in stillness. She typed, "I used to think peace was something someone gave you. Now I know it's something you claim." Milo burst in, grass-stained and grinning. "Mom, I caught a firefly," he said, holding out his hands. "Show me," she said, following him outside. He opened his palms, and a tiny glow flickered before flying free. Nina laughed, pulling him into a hug. "You're my light, kiddo." As Milo ran back to play, Nina stood on the lawn, her tea cooling in her hand. Her phone buzzed again, a new order, number 351, and a message from a woman. "Your story saved me." She smiled, looking at the stars. From broken silence to boss and scene, Nina Garcia had built a life no one could take away. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a creator, holding peace in her hands. I'm glad you made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed the story.